I hear you two have a new book that's come out. So why don't you tell us about that book and the premise and where you take the customer experience in it?
The book is called Take Their Breath Away, and the subtitle is How Imaginative Service Creates Devoted Customers. And the premise, back to John's earlier point, is that the customers today are bored. One of our fun examples is there was a brokerage company that had the traditional phone tree, +1 if you will need this, +2 if you need this, +3. And they added press 7 if you'd like to hear a duck quack. And they got over 1 million calls every week and had to finally take it off because it was jamming their system and cost them a fortune. But what it tells you is, why would millions of people punch 7 just to hear a duck quack? That's how bored people are. The book is about how to deliver that unique, unexpected experience, inventive service, imaginative service. One of the reasons why we think the book's timely is that historically, when you look at great service, a component of it is value added. How do I take what I traditionally provide the customer and add to it? If you are a customer of an airline, I'll upgrade you to first class. Wouldn't that be cool? Well, I need to sell that seat now in first class. I can't afford to give it away as a reward, or upgrade you to the fancy floor in a hotel. The free dessert, I can't afford to give you anymore. And so, given the fact that we have such a challenge economically in providing value added, this book is about value unique. It's about not just the wow, but what we like to think of as the whoa, the unexpected, the awe-inspiring. And often those are the kind of things that are simple and easy to do.
You go to a tire store. You haven't been there in a couple of years. It's a tire store you don't go to every week, or you got a real problem. So you hadn't been there, but you pull in, you park, and you walk in the door. As you open the door, they say, "Oh, Miss Varga, it's great to see you." You're going to stop and go, "Wait a minute, I haven't been here in 2 years. How'd you do that?" "Well, they recorded your license plate. So when you park, somebody's watching out the window, and they put the license plate in their computer. It says Mary Pat Vargas there." Now what happens? Everybody goes, "Whoa, we had a customer write us and tell us this story that actually happened to him." How about a clothing salesman where you don't ever go to the store? How about a clothing salesman that knows you so well that they email you pictures of clothing items that they think you would like, and you tell them? Or what if they just send you a shirt and tie and say, with a note, "I knew you'd like this. If not, no problem. Send it back in the enclosed mailer." That happens to us.
Yeah.
He gets it. And that's just doing things differently.
Or how about the insurance agent who, instead of like every other insurance agent, sends you a birthday card, or maybe calls you on your birthday? How about the insurance agent who has this little girl call you and sing happy birthday? Now that's a pretty creative use of child labor. But it's those unique, unexpected, out of the ordinary kind of thing. We have a friend of ours who runs a clothing store in Atlanta. And when you walk into the clothing store, at the entrance is a giant, colorful gumball machine. And beside it, a big bowl of pennies. Now, guess where Junior's going to go while Daddy tries on trousers? So it's those kind of unique and unusual, but simple and replicatable and appropriate examples that make it a magical and enchanting experience, and therefore builds that sense of devotion.
What do you two say to organizations that are resistant to this? It's not our thing. We don't have time to figure out these creative approaches.
Sure.
We think you don't have to take the time to figure it out. We think if you just empower the people on the front line, they'll figure it out. They know what works. They know the unusual and creative ways to do it.
My mother-in-law was with us 2 weeks ago because I had a kid graduate from high school, and she said, I can't wait to read your new book. Now I know everybody has a mother-in-law and they're supposed to say that, but she said, "I read your other book. Why don't people get this? It's not hard." That's literally what she said. I said, "No, I'm glad. If they got it, we wouldn't have anything to do."
Well, that's right.
But
thank goodness they don't get it yet.
The other thing we say to people is, do you have so many customers you don't need any more? Are your customers all staying with you? Have you got all of their wallet that you could get? Because how can you afford today, when there's more competition there ever has, and you can get information faster than you ever have, and most everything we go after is a commodity? What is the differentiating factor? I can buy a shirt online in any number of places, in any number of stores, and I can figure out the lowest price and probably get it at the same place 5 or 6 times. So who's going to sell me the shirt? It's easy for me. It's who really knows me and who's going to treat me differently.
And who's going to be set apart of those who create that unique experience.
And the hard thing to tell people is, you got to quit thinking like you're in the industry you're in. Because otherwise you're just going to keep doing the same thing or doing what the other people in that industry does. And so in the book we talk about seeing things through a different lens. And that's really what it takes to get to imaginative service. So, what if Starbucks ran your business? Or the Ritz-Carlton or Southwest Airways?
Sure.
What if they ran your business? Would anything be different? And people usually go, well, I never thought about that. Well, the customer is. Why don't you talk about how the customer's changed?
Yeah,
Because that's really what drives it.
What drives is the fact that customers change. And what's changed them is, first of all, they have a lot more options than they ever had before. And so what did they use to figure out choosing A over B? And more, the experience is what they use, because they get the same product, as John said, at the same price. So how do I pick going to vendor A over vendor B? The experience winds up being a critical component in how they make that choice. They're a lot smarter than they've ever been. If you think about the last car you bought compared to 10 years ago, you went in smart. You had done your homework. And most people now are a lot smarter buyer than they've ever been. And so they're more discerning in their choices. But the biggest thing, as John was saying, that changed customers is the fact they have had great experiences in the little pockets of their life, and they use that experience to judge everyone. And so when the FedEx delivery person walks past, I assume the Postal Service person will do the same. And when they answer the phone in one ring, I assume everybody will do that. And when I can go on Amazon.com and make it so easy to buy a book, then I look at everybody else's website through Amazon.com eyes. And so that's driven up the customer's expectations. And it, again, because we're talking about an experience, they compare you to everybody creating experiences. And that automatically takes you out of your industry, out of your space, because that's how the customer looks at you.
So they raised the bar. The customer raised the bar, and we got to respond to it. The other neat thing about this is, and everybody's known this for years and years because Earl Sasser and his buddies back at Harvard did it when they talked about the service profit chain years ago. You know, great service companies are the ones on Fortune's best places to work. Why? Well, it takes a really engaged employee to deliver a great experience for a customer. Now, in this environment today, where most companies have laid off people, so we're doing a lot more with a lot less. There's a lot of wear and tear on those employees. If I want to keep those folks and I want to help them through this tough time, what sort of environment do I want to create? I create a great one. And frontline employees would rather do what? Do a great job for the customer than be bound by a bunch of old rules and regulations that make their life tougher. We find that when you do a great job for the customer, it's usually not more work for the employee. It's usually more fun.
Right. Excellent advice, guys. If a business owner wanted to find out, you know, what's on their customer's mind, you know, what are they thinking and feeling?
Ask us.
Are there like 2 or 3 questions that you think every business
Yes.
owner should ask their
Sure.
customers?
Absolutely.
Sure.
I think one is, what is one thing we can do to improve our service to you, to improve the experience in dealing with us? That's one everybody ought to ask every opportunity they get. We know that customers like to teach, and it's a teaching kind of question rather than just a evaluation kind of question. So I think that's one. Another
one that we think is a great one is to ask the customer, what is it that we do that you walk out of here shaking your head going, why in the world do they do that way?
Yeah.
And we would love to know what it is you wonder about. A friend of ours used to say, let's have some what's stupid around here meetings. Yeah. Same sort of thing. What do we do that drives you crazy? Because that's surely not what we're in business to do. And then the other one that we really like is, what else could we do so that you would tell everybody you know that they ought to come and spend their money with us?
Excellent. Terrific. Thank you guys so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Good.
Fantastic.